Hello everyone, this is Baileyfingers. Nice to be back on YouTube. Sorry it's not another song. I know, first thing right off the bat. Sorry it's not another song. I just got excited with the idea of doing a review since I did the co-review of Big Fish with my friend Kirby of the account KFARINEAU. The link to the Big Fish review and his channel are in the description below. Go check both of them out, especially his channel, because he's awesome, and he's my best friend, and he's awesome. Alright, so the movie I'm reviewing today is called Amelie, and it's a French romantic comedy, and for those of you who are clicking the back button for either it being French or for it being a romantic comedy, if it's because it's French and you hate subtitles, continue clicking the back button. Sorry. For those of you who are doing it because it's a romantic comedy, don't. Because it's not like, it's not one of those romantic comedies. It's a very intelligent film. Artsy in many ways. It's very intelligent, though. So yeah, the film is called Amelie. It, stars a lot of actors I can't pronounce the names of, like, mainly Audrey Tautou as a titular, frick, I can't pronounce it. You know what I mean, though. Titular, I think, is how you pronounce it. Amelie. Why don't I just call it eponymous? Eponymous Amelie. And she, and yeah, the general synopsis of this movie is a girl who is raised by, or is raised away from other children, and she grows up because of that, becoming a very introverted person who doesn't really interact with other people. But she's eventually inspired, and I don't want to give away why, but she's inspired to go and do good and help interact through, although she has a hard time interacting with people, through subtle ways, changing people's lives for the better. But she eventually falls in love. However, she is afraid of talking to this person, so therefore she uses the same sort of techniques to try and lead, or to try to get to him, but at the same time she can't interact with him face to face. She's too nervous. So, that's the synopsis of this movie. I guess I'll start with the visuals, because they're the thing that'll pop out immediately to you. Visuals of, like, this idealistic France, or Paris, is absolutely beautiful. They are stunning. It's a very bright style, as you notice. There's a lot of bright colors. One of the most things you'll notice is that there's not a lot of black. I know that's a weird thing to point out, but there really isn't, besides the character's hair, obviously. But yeah, there's not a whole lot of dark colors or anything. It's all very bright and vivid. The thing with that, though, is that it gives, like, this romanticized old 50s Paris type vibe to it, which, because the movie flat out says that it's set around, like, late 90s, that it's kind of jarring, and it doesn't really work at places, at least in my opinion. I know people who love this movie are now, like, going to post angry comments below. The sun is really prominent. I know that's another weird thing to point out, but there's always sunshine. It never rains in this movie. And I know that's, again, a weird thing to point out, but it's, at least for me, it, like, really stuck out. It's like, wow, there's no rain in this, which I think actually serves the movie to benefit because it complements the style. The acting in this movie is near flawless. Particularly the lead performance by Audrey Tautou, I believe is how you pronounce her name, as Amelie, is unbelievable. Like, she really becomes this character, and you don't think of her as an actor, you think of her as Amelie, and she, honestly, I don't know who won Best Actress, the award for Best Actress in 2001, but she should have won it. She's awesome. Other great performances include Rufus. Was the name of the guy. For some reason, the actor does not have a last name. But yeah, his character, who's a painter, he does that to a T. He becomes a character as well. The acting in this movie in general is very good. There's no bad performances. There's no even mediocre performances. Everybody steps up to the level that they need to be to make this movie work. And it shows. Although it's worth pointing out, and this is a part of the movie that I really want to talk about, the narration. So in this movie, they have a narrator who doesn't really serve much of a purpose for telling the story so much as he serves for comic relief, which is a really weird role for a narrator because narrators usually don't do that. But yeah, pretty much all the comedy in this movie comes from him, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it's a little off-putting. Like, you don't understand why he's there. It doesn't, like, halt the movie in its tracks. It never does that. But it does, because there's one scene in particular, and this is early in the movie, so I don't consider this a spoiler, but if you do, I'm talking like 15 minutes in or so. Amelie's mother commits suicide, and he treats it almost humorously, like he's going for a dark humor aspect, but it's the lighthearted tone of the rest of the movie. It really doesn't work. It is actually like almost like repulsing how that scene is done, because it's like they just gloss over it. They hardly even talk about like the emotional effects that this must have had or anything like that. It's like they're purely going for that shock value and purely going for that sort of dark humor aspect of it, but it just doesn't work. It's very, again, it almost makes you want to turn off the movie like, oh my god. But in general, the narration works. It's not laugh out loud funny. We'll put a smile on your face, though. It's humorous, but it's not humorous enough to put you out of your chair or anything. It complements the atmosphere in some places very, very well. In particular, I'm not sure how they could have done narrating Amelie's birth without the narrator, because he just condenses it into like a minute, which is awesome. And he also does it in a way that like puts you right into the movie smiling and ready for this do-gooder type character. So that was very nice and very well done. So the narration, yeah, I kind of have mixed feelings about. On some parts, like the telling of the beginning of the movie, it works incredibly well. In other parts, like the part of Amelie's mother's suicide, it really doesn't work. So, but for the most part, it's good. The other thing I noticed about this movie, not necessarily script-wise, but in terms of the style of the way that it's written, it's very much influenced 500 Days of Summer. At least that's what it seems like, because this movie was released in 2001. So, obviously, 500 Days of Summer, 2009. I think 500 Days of Summer takes a lot of cues from this, and it would make sense given that this movie has 5 Academy Award nominations. But it's, yeah, it's a very, so if you like 500 Days of Summer, I recommend checking this out, because it's a lot like it in many ways. The writing in general is where my issues with the movie start to arise. The writing's good for the most part, but alright, so the relationship between Amelie and her love interest, for God's sake, I could never remember his name, but it doesn't work, because she's in love with this guy, but she never talks to him until the very end of the movie. And I just don't believe that. I'm not a love at first sight guy, so maybe that's why, but I just can't believe that you would be, like, full out, like, in love, ready to do anything for this person that she's never met. And also, the way she seeks him out doesn't strike me as charming, it strikes me as stalkerish. And I think anybody who would experience it in real life would consider it really creepy. especially when she has this face. Yeah, scary. She's like following this guy around, and it's like, I wouldn't be so charmed. I'd be calling the police. But it works well in general. All in all, putting everything into account, the visual style, the writing, the actor, and just how it all comes together in general. The only other major flaw with this movie, I think, and I like this movie, but I feel like pointing this out, it's too long. This movie could have been shortened by like a good 30 minutes. It's about 2 hours and 20 minutes. It could have been an hour 50. I feel like, I don't know exactly what they would cut out, but I know that they could cut something out. Because it starts to drag a little bit towards the middle. But in terms of pacing. But overall, this movie, I recommend you buy it. There are people who are like fanatically in love with this movie, I know. So you might end up being one of those people. So if that's the case, rent it. You will probably... you will respect this movie no matter what you think of it. Or at least you should. But whether you like it or not, I can't say. But I do recommend checking it out. Because it's a fun film. It's a film that you probably, I mean, although 500 Days of Summer does take some stylistic cues from it, the overall movie is very unique. And you might end up really, really loving it. So, yeah, I give it personally an 8 out of 10 and recommend you check it out. Okay, see you. Baileyfingers. Goodbye.